guys, it's Smalls, and today I wanted to do a video on a pretty serious topic, and that topic is anxiety. And you may be one of millions of people who deal with this disorder on a daily basis. Or you may know somebody that you're very close with who deals with anxiety. Now, I will be honest with you, before I had anxiety, I didn't really understand what it was, and I hate to say this, but I think a part of me really doubted the validity of people's claims for anxiety, if you understand what I mean. And now I feel terrible that I ever thought that, and now I feel insecure that other people feel that way about me when I'm going through high anxiety times and things like that. But I just kind of want to tell my story in terms of how it started, and I want to tell you about some of the things that I've been doing to work through it. I personally am trying to do everything I can to avoid prescription drugs. I don't have any qualms with people who take prescription for anxiety, and I completely get it, but due to the history of substance abuse in my family, I just feel like it would be better if I could avoid it at all lengths. So my first encounter with somebody with anxiety is actually my husband. When he was 19 years old, he started experiencing extreme anxiety to the point that he didn't want to leave the house. And as somebody in a relationship with someone with anxiety who did not have it, I really didn't understand. I kind of felt neglected. I kind of felt hurt, and like I said, I really didn't understand what was going on, and that was a really hard time for him. For a very long time, I believe that he didn't really have a very good quality of life, and so he's chosen to take the prescription route, which is totally fine, and now he's like a normal functioning adult, and he goes to work every day, and he can go out and go to concerts and things like that. And just, lead a pretty normal life. He has told me that he's experienced high anxiety days sometimes, and unfortunately he was feeling really anxious during our honeymoon, which is terrible. But I wouldn't have known it if he didn't tell me that. He really was a trooper. But back to my experience with anxiety. I think that I kind of had mild spurts of it, and I didn't know what it was. I just knew that I felt uncomfortable. But my first panic attack was actually at a show with my best friend Jenny. We were going to see two bands that we both liked, and it was like a girls' trip, and it was really awesome. She's super chill lady, and I love her so much. So luckily she, kind of understood, and I hope I didn't ruin her good time, but this is what happened. So, we get to the venue, and the first band is playing, which is the band that I was more familiar with, and, everything was cool, and then, like, all of a sudden, I felt really weak, like my knees were really weak, and I was wearing heels, so that was like doubly bad. And then just being around all these people, I started to feel claustrophobic, which is so not normal for me. Like, I'm totally comfortable in a crowd of people, I'm fine with it, but I had to get out of there. And luckily there was a separate bar that is in the same building where the concert was taking place, so I was able to go out there and sit at a table. I think I'd got a Sprite or something, and I was just sitting there for an hour and a half, maybe. I don't know, it felt like an eternity, just trying to get a grip on what was going on. I felt terrible because I felt like I let my friend down, because I couldn't be there with her, and it was just her and I, but I encouraged her to watch the show anyway, because we drove all that way to be there, and this is one of her idols that was performing, so she was cool with it, I think. And now when I go to concerts, I fear that will happen. So that happened, and then I was fine the next day. Like, a few months had passed and everything was cool. And then my husband's grandmother passed in July, and because we were like immediate family, we had to stay at the funeral home for like 6 hours. And throughout that experience, I just wanted to leave. I know that kind of sounds really bad, but it wasn't anything against Grandma Helen, because I loved her, and it wasn't anything against my family at all. Of course I wanted to be there with them, but I just had this feeling like I wanted to get out. I didn't want to be there anymore, but I couldn't, so I stayed. And so that whole time, like, I just was starting to feel it really in my chest, but I worked through it, and, you know, everything was okay. So after the funeral, I went back to work on the Monday after the funeral, and everything was cool. Drove into work, it was cool. At that point, I was driving home for my lunch break so I could let my dog out and just eat at home, you know, chill. And on my way back, it was really hot out that day. On my way back, I started feeling like it was building up, like the tension was building up, and I started to feel really uncomfortable. Well, I was stopped at a red light, and there's only 2 lanes there. There's one to go straight, which is the lane that I was in, and then there's a turning lane, and this is a pretty big intersection in my little city here. Well, while waiting at the stoplight, my mouth got really dry. I started to get really nervous, and I didn't have anything to drink, and that kind of just snowballed into like this full-on panic attack. Like, I started sweating, and my hands clenched up. I had to turn on my my emergency light, my emergency blinkers for my car. I was just like paralyzed with fear. And so, like, I took my phone, and with like my fingers all like with my fingers all locked up, I called one of my coworkers, and I told her kind of what was going on, and she was going to send somebody to meet me because I really wasn't very far from my office. But I gave it a few minutes, and then I was able to kind of come back down to earth and drive to work. So I was really high anxiety for the rest of the day, and I got home, and I tried to relax. I couldn't. I was in like full-on level 10 anxiety for about 10 days. It was miserable. I couldn't eat. I couldn't sleep properly. Every time I'd fall asleep, I'd wake up not breathing. It was terrible, like awful, and I would not wish it on anybody. So I kind of started looking into different, more natural remedies for anxiety. Of course, there's meditation, but what I have found has helped me a lot is kava. And I should let you know, kava can do liver damage to your liver if you take it too much. So if you do want to go that route, I would read into it and maybe consult your doctor. But that's what I take when I really start to feel it build up, and it does kind of level me out. But since I had my panic attack in my car at a stoplight, even now, how many months has it been? Like 8 months later, I am still feeling like anxiety when I drive. I'm still feeling some anxiety when I'm at a stoplight. But I haven't had any panic attacks since the summer, so that's been really good, like best thing ever. But when I start to feel the anxieties start to build, I found you can't reject it, because that what you reject persists. Unfortunately, that's what it is. So I just tell myself, like, you're feeling anxiety, you can drive the rest of the way. You've done it 100 times, 1,000,000 times. Sometimes this sounds weird, but I'll count the trees that are around me, or I'll observe the foliage. I'll try to listen to the radio, do things like that. I don't like to focus on the amount of cars that are around me, but I kind of just take it one step at a time, and I found that you know, I can make it home. But yeah, driving anxiety is super weird. Like there's like certain spaces, like distance close to my office or my home where I feel like better. It's like a safe zone, I guess, because I know I'm almost there. But the in-between parts, it's a little iffy. And I do have some worries and concerns and just doubts and fears about moving to a big city. Again, because there's a lot of highway driving and you can't really pull over on a highway. And so the speed limit's obviously a lot higher. So I'm going to have to figure out how to work through that. But I just wanted to share my experience because I know a lot of people deal with it. But I am able to drive myself to and from work on a daily basis. I am able to go to the grocery store or go to like fast food or something like that, go to restaurants and, you know, be pretty okay. But yeah, I wanted to share my experience with you all, and if you are going through anxiety, I want you to know that you're not alone, you're not crazy. It's something that affects a lot of people, unfortunately, in different ways and for different reasons. I guess my last tip would be to maybe try a B12 supplement. That's also been helpful to me. I've been taking that a lot as well. It's good for you in other ways than just anxiety, but yeah, let me know what you've done to help with your anxiety. Oh, really quick. Also, lavender. Lavender helps a lot too, the scent of lavender. I have a little essential oil bottle that I kept with me, especially when I was really in the heat of the anxiety. I really hate motorcycles. Like, I'm sorry if you like them, but they're so obnoxious. Anyway, when I was in the heat of my anxiety, I kept this little vial of lavender essential oil with me, and I would put it in my hands and smell it, and it would help relax me. Even if it's like in my head that it worked, it worked. But as always, I do encourage you to comment below. If you're interested in more of my content, please do subscribe. And as always, I do hope you have a nice day. Bye.